So hello everyone. Welcome to our latest edition of HACKNIGHT Remote. This is HACKNIGHT episode number 417. We're glad that you all decided to join us here on this Tuesday. My name is Ryan Spencer and I am one of the board members here at HACKNIGHT, and I'll be your co-host this evening.
Hi folks, and I'm Derek Eater. I'll be your second co-host tonight along with Ryan. Thanks again for being here and taking a break from all the crazy stuff happening in the world right now
There's a
to
lot of
join us.
Yeah, so hopefully this is like a nice sort of escape from all that tonight. So we are very excited to be hosting Get Cities. They are in a new initiative that focuses on gender equity in the tech ecosystem. So particularly on women representation in tech along with marginalized groups as well. So we have Sam Letcher, Niharika Hangloom, and Casey Kopelson, who are going to be joining us later this evening to give an amazing presentation on Get Cities.
And just a reminder to folks, we'll be taking questions after their presentation is over in the YouTube live chat. So as you're watching the presentation, feel free to type your questions in there and we'll be writing them down and asking them of our presenters in the order they were asked. And I think you can see here we got an agenda. After this, we'll do some announcements, then the presentation, then Q&A, and then we'll be having a Zoom call afterwards for folks to join and have some more community engagement with folks. And we'll also get a chance to hear some of the breakout groups that are meeting tonight. So I think we can maybe jump into announcements.
Yeah, let's get to announcements.
I can take the first one. If you have been watching for a while, this is probably not new to you, but just in case, we do a lot of our organizing tonight, but also during the weekdays as well on our Slack channel. And you can invite yourself using the link right here, slackme.chihacknight.org. There's a bunch of information there. You can meet some of the fellow ChiHackNight folks. There's a pretty great jobs board with all sorts of interesting job opportunities that we get posted there. And then just a general place to ask questions and share some gossip in the water cooler.
I like that one. So HACKNIGHT is a membership-based nonprofit. So if you're not already a member, please look into potentially becoming a member of HACKNIGHT. It's a really great way to be able to kind of exercise things like your right to vote, which is obviously really important and exciting, and also just make decisions on what HACKNIGHT is doing. And so there is a link for you to follow if you're interested in applying to be a member at HACKNIGHT. I'm a member, Derek's a member, obviously, and it's just a really great way to get further involved in the community.
Mm-hmm. We got some great upcoming presentations. I think we're just about booked through the end of the year. We have some great presentations coming up in October. We're going to hear from folks at ProPublica on some reporting they did on seniors in subsidized housing. On the 20th, we're going to hear from Kim Creighton, who's known as the anti-racist economist. And then on the 27th, we're going to be hearing a presentation on the People's Budget by a fellow of the Chicago United for Equity, or CUE organization. So that'll be really great.
So if you're not already familiar, HACKNIGHT does have a tech and data help desk. So if you are in need of assistance, or you maybe know an organization that could use some, or if you even want to volunteer some of your skills, this is a great way to do so. So there is a link to sign up to volunteer and also to request help from the help desk. So this applies to any people or organizations in Chicagoland area who potentially need help with maybe some data analyzation or just some general guidance. So there's that.
This one's good. We just published this blog post today. Fellow board member Cameron So, who maybe you've seen on one of these live streams recently, and another ChiHackNight member, Jonathan Rogoff, put together a list of resources for voting in the upcoming presidential election next month. There are many ways to vote, including not just voting by mail, but also early voting, and then voting in person on the day of. So we put as much information as we could find into one blog post, so you can hopefully find what you need there. And it's Illinois and Chicago focused. So we really tried to keep it tailored to the folks that typically watch our Chai Hack Night live stream. So you can get to it going to this bit.ly link, bit.ly/CHN 2020 voting info. It's also on the homepage of our website, chaihacknight.org. And props to Cameron and Jonathan for putting all that together.
Okay, so mellowbikemap.com.
I actually added this one so I can speak a little bit more about it. This is a project that was announced a couple days ago by a former presenter at Chai Hack Night, Jean Cochran, who also works at the company I am at, DataMade. They built a really cool map that pulls in some data from OpenStreetMap and some other sources to basically give you a bike route that avoids busy or stressful streets. And so hence the name Mellow Bike Map. So you can go to this website, drop in 2 points, and then it will give you a route that will take you through side streets and away from busy, stressful intersections. And you can kind of see this is a screenshot of that website with an example address put in there. So it seems like it could be, if you want to mellow out, this might help.
Yeah, mellowing out. Okay, so filling out your census. So I'm sure everyone has already done this. So this is pretty much old news, but we're going to say it anyway. So if you've not already done so, please fill out your census. It's the way to get counted. It also deals with the way resources are allocated in your community. So please do so. The response rates of September, I'm sure those numbers are way up now, and everyone on this Zoom has already done so. But if not, fill out your census.
Cool, and I think that's our last announcement, which is just a reminder and a link to the Zoom call that we're going to be doing at 8 o'clock tonight. So after the presentation wraps, everyone will be invited to join the Zoom call where we'll have some breakout groups and some intros, and we'll get to know some of your fellow HACKNIGHT members. All right, well, I think we are ready for the presentation, right?
Yes, we are. So we are going to get ready to turn off our cameras and mics. But I think before we do, just a reminder. So we do have the live chat feature, but please be mindful that our code of conduct still applies. So just be respectful of our guests and the larger community. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get our faces off so we can get our presenters.
All right, take it away, folks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We're super excited to be here. Just to reintroduce the three of us briefly, my name is Sam, pronoun she, her, and I'm the Chicago associate for Get Cities. Casey?
I am Casey Koppelson. I'm the program manager for Get Cities.
Hi, I'm Niharika. I'm the lead researcher for Get Cities.
Awesome. So I'm going to share some slides with everyone. All right, so we are Get Cities. Get stands for Gender Equality in Tech, and our mission is to accelerate the representation and leadership of women and marginalized genders in tech by developing inclusive tech hubs at the city level. So Chicago was chosen as the pilot city for this initiative. We plan to go to at least 2 more cities over the next 4 years. And we have 3 major goals as an initiative. The first is increasing the percentage of women and marginalized genders as computer science graduates. So we're already doing some work at UIC for that piece of our mission. The second is increasing the percentage of women and marginalized genders in the workforce in computing related fields. And then the third is increasing the percentage of VC funding going to companies with at least 1 woman or marginalized gender founder. And when we do talk about marginalized genders, we're talking about women, trans, and non-binary people of all genders. So anybody who experiences marginalization based on their gender in the tech community. Just to first off give a little bit of state of affairs of women and marginalized genders in tech and really why Get Cities exists. You know, before I started this work, I really thought the numbers were improving. And I think a lot of people think that the numbers are improving when it comes to representation of women in tech. But in reality, in 1984, 35% of tech workers in the US were women. And today that number is only 32%. When you're looking at computing roles specifically, only 27% are held by women nationally, and only 3% by African American women and 2% by Latino women. So we actually are backsliding when it comes to looking at the last 3 decades of the representation of women in the technology industry. This is a little bit more of a specific breakdown, looking at some of the biggest tech companies in our country. And so you can see in blue, that's the representation of women within the total workforce at each company listed. And then you have the percentage of leadership jobs at each of those companies, and then the percentage of tech jobs. So the representation of women is really bleak when it comes to actual tech roles within companies. So where women are represented, it doesn't tend to be in the technical roles. I'm going to pass it over to Niharika to go a little bit more in depth on what we learned in our research process for GET.
Thank you, Sam. So as part of the Get Cities initiative, we basically took a broad look across the academic and popular literatures, what people have done and are doing, and we spoke with a variety of people in national and local organizations representing various sectors of the overall tech ecosystem. So we looked at programs for pre-adolescent girls to venture capitalists. Our goal was really to understand the current mindset and outlook, and also to really cast a critical eye to learn from the past and design the best possible gender equality in tech program for the future. Cue slide, please. All right, so next slide.
Sorry, just 1 second.
No worries. All right, so this is basically the gender equality in tech systems map. While I'm talking, Sam is going to click on the actual map. Essentially, what this does is that it looks at how variables interact over time and form patterns of behavior across this entire ecosystem. It essentially combines causal loop mapping with stock and flow diagrams. So the first 3 interrelated loops that we are going to focus on right now is R1, R2, and R3. That's in the upper left quadrant. It basically looks at the general attractiveness of the tech ecosystem, the firm, the tech workforce, and shows that the perceived viability of the ecosystem, the companies themselves, and it also shows how as the candidates increase and the more women are hired, the more are retained, and the more women are retained, the more become leaders. This, of course, is not a surprise, nor should it be. Within each node, of course, are specific actions that can be taken, and that's the way we can think about how well our GET program covers the full system. These diagrams, the system map, is very helpful in the context of a specific issue like gender equality in tech, and we are more than happy to talk to you more about this if needed. So please feel free to reach out to us. Next slide, please. So as part of our research process, we spoke to more than 150 individuals and 100+ organizations here in Chicago and also nationally. We've heard a lot of things, and while there is some dissonance, there's also a lot of consensus on the current state of affairs when it comes to the tech sector in Chicago and the role of women and people of color. These are just some of the significant insights that we have seen during the 4 odd months of research that we conducted. So you can see some of what was said to us. And I think we can go to the next slide, please. So looking at the systems map specifically, we basically mapped out these potential leverage points that our team is basically working to strengthen. And some of these potential leverage points that we will be talking more about in the upcoming slides focus specifically on one of our program pillars, which is the GET Fellowship. And we'll be talking to you a little bit more about that. We are essentially looking at increasing the strength of our networks, increasing the number of mentoring opportunities, overall increasing the attractiveness of the tech ecosystem here in Chicago, designing inclusive ecosystems, and highlighting best practices. And on that note, I will hand it back over to Sam, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the GET Fellowship Program, which is one of our program pillars.
Awesome. Thank you, Niharika. So the systems map really does stay central to all of the work that we're doing in Chicago. And we designed a fellowship program to support women and marginalized genders in the first 5 years of a tech career around the nodes of the systems map. And like Niharika said, we're happy to zoom in and go into more detail in the Q&A to show you parts that people here might be interested in learning about. But we really designed a program to make sure that we are hitting nodes across the system. So a lot of interventions focus super deeply, whether it might be on mentorship opportunities or, the attractiveness of the tech ecosystem. We really wanted to make sure that we're hitting a lot of different areas here so that, if we're just influencing one node, the system can snap back really easily to its current state. So we want to be focusing on the system as a whole. A couple of the nodes that we're going to be targeting within the fellowship network. One is just the cost of hiring great candidates. So as we can highlight women and marginalized genders in tech, we hope to be able to make it easier to hire those women. Looking at numbering of mentoring and networking opportunities, that's a huge one as we build out this network and really support the career development of a few fellows that we'll select. Strength of professional networks, so making sure that we're creating linkages between the different stages of women in tech careers. And the number of allies for women in tech. So a lot of people on this call might not identify with a marginalized gender, but the number of allies for women in tech makes a huge difference on the ability of people with marginalized genders to succeed in tech roles. So zooming out a bit, what actually is the GET Fellowship? It's a paid 9-month experiential learning cohort for Chicago-based people of marginalized genders early in their tech careers to advance leadership skills, expand their network, and to build a meaningful project. And each of those projects will have a technical component and will be focused on problem statements that are related to gender equity in tech. And I'll go a little bit more in depth on that later. So again, who is a GET Fellow? We talked about this a little already. We really are especially welcoming BIPOC, disabled, and LGBTQ technologists to apply. We're going to be accepting marginalized genders, so trans and non-binary folks, as well as women. And the program, you can see some bullets here on if this is for you or if you might know somebody who would benefit from a program like this. Well, project-based learning, a lot of collaboration, really helping folks navigate their tech career. That was a big piece of what we heard in our research process, that it's super difficult to navigate tech. It's kind of this closed door environment. And I think everyone at Shy HACKNIGHT knows that well, because you're all here to try to, break down those barriers. But we need to be taking more of a systems level approach to breaking down a lot of those barriers into tech. So these were the projects that I was referring to earlier. Each GET Fellow will actually work on a team of 4 to 5 to explore a specific issue around gender inclusivity in tech. So these might be within companies that fellows are already employed at. This could be with a nonprofit partner, or this could be just independently addressing a problem statement related to inclusion in tech. And I'm sure everyone here is super familiar with the process to bring something like this to life. So we plan to help our fellows, go through this process, especially folks that have been on tech teams before, or maybe a few years out of their tech education, but might not have that side project level experience, might not have that same experience in entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship. And so we're going to bring those fellows into cross-disciplinary teams, surface problem statements, help them do user research, both within their own companies and outside of their companies. wireframe, do public user testing. So we'll actually have opportunities for folks across Chicago to give feedback on projects, all the way out to refining, prototyping into a final summit, and then actually supporting the fellows for a few months after that formalized program to continue building out their interventions. And bringing it all the way back around to the systems map, we're actually going to be using the systems map to surface problem statements for the fellows. So just zooming in on this female candidate pool, a couple of problem statements that we might take from this. How might we elevate the perceived talent of candidates? How might we elevate the perceived reputation of underestimated colleges and universities? And how might we decrease bias in hiring practices? And so from this, you can really see that the systems map has given us a really unique perspective on how to accelerate marginalized genders in tech, because you might not immediately think that elevating the reputation of universities in Chicago that aren't typically thought of as tech hubs to be a piece of actually accelerating women, trans, and non-binary people in tech. But when you look at this as a system and holistically, we can see that that has a huge impact on the pipeline really into those entry-level roles. Because if colleges in Chicago are not seen as developing really good tech talent, even when they are, and we're talking about the perceived reputation here, we're going to be limiting the pipeline into tech companies and tech roles. One really cool initiative that's already really focused on this is the Chicago Apprentice Network. And zooming in on one more little node, the strength in numbers node over here. So you can see that number of mentoring and networking opportunities is really going to impact the strength of professional networks for women, which also impacts the perceived level of agencies of those who are actually in tech roles. So a couple of problem statements surfaced from this loop. How might we foster more interconnected relationships between people of marginalized genders across tech industries and companies, really breaking down silos? And how might we increase the agency or perceived level of agency of marginalized genders in tech roles? So we're super excited about this program because not only are we going to be able to pay and support and really rally around 20 folks who are in it in those first 5 years of a tech career and who are super critical to retain in Chicago, but we're going to be actually able to accelerate their knowledge, to equip them to help design solutions to this problem with us, and then to be able to take what they create and help open source it, help share it with the public, whatever the next steps might be. We really don't just see this as an opportunity for development for the fellows themselves, but actually an opportunity for us to co-create resources, interventions, and initiatives with the actual users, women, trans, and non-binary people who are in tech roles right now. So if you're interested in helping us with this work, it's kind of an interesting extension of everything that you're already doing at HACKNIGHT. We're definitely going to be looking for mentors, looking for workshop hosts, but we're also launching the fellowship application next week. So you can go to that bit.ly link if you would want to be a fellow or apply, if you have somebody in mind to nominate, or if you're interested in volunteering as a mentor. There's also a link there for our mailing list and for our handle on Twitter and LinkedIn if you want to follow along and connect. That's all we have for slides. So excited to use the rest of the time for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. One comment to note is we're getting a lot of impressive comments about the diagram you shared. Like, I count myself among them. It's a pretty amazing diagram. And related to that, first question is, can you share some of the research and models that you used to create that tech ecosystem diagram, and how long did it take you to develop?
I think we developed it over a couple of months. We spoke to a wide number of experts and also tech professionals themselves to get their input. But yeah, I mean, it's a, I would like to also say that it is a work in progress. The systems map is definitely something that's like it's essentially a theory of change, right? This is what is guiding a lot of our work. And, as Sam mentioned earlier, we're using it as a way to look at it from a very systems approach. So it is a work in progress. It's so if anyone has, any specific like input or feedback on how to like strengthen the systems map and make it more cohesive, we are always looking for more feedback on that.
You got the next one, Ryan?
Oh, I do. So what are some of the tools, methods, and sources you use to measure outcomes? So is there data you are still seeking to find?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so we are still. I mean, I'm being very candid because I think this is like a safe space. But I think we are still developing, some of the indicators and outcomes of what our work is going to result in. I think the end of the day, our ultimate outcome that we are aiming to get is increase the overall number of women in the tech workforce. So that's essentially our ultimate goal that we are hoping to get to. And yeah, so we are looking at a lot of like we've collected a lot of baseline data around what that looks like, and if people have any ideas. And to be honest, a lot of that information is not very easy to come by. So we have definitely been like looking at multiple sources, from like data that's at the census or federal level, looking at like PUMS data and the census data, but also looking at more privately like held data sources. So if anyone has any insights or data sources that they can share, more than welcome to look at that as well. Sam, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, some folks on the call might be familiar with this, but it's really hard to get the company level data on diversity in a tech workforce, and especially in the tech workforce. So most companies don't publish their data on diversity in their workforce at all. And then out of the companies that do, it's quite rare for that to actually be disaggregated between the general workforce and the tech workforce. So one thing that we're absolutely going to be working on as an organization is trying to get more of that data transparency in the corporate landscape, which a lot of folks are already doing that work in Chicago. But that will be key for those kind of intermediate level goals of really being able to track, especially within the largest tech employers, which make a huge outsized impact on the Chicago tech workforce in general. Just being able to track those employers and how they're doing as far as the diversity metrics within their companies.
Great. I can ask the next question. This is from the live chat. Did the interventions have to be technical with a code component?
So this was actually kind of inspired by a lot of the work that you guys have done on data. Our Chicago director is super involved in HACKNIGHT, and we see a lot of the projects, becoming kind of technical projects. Maybe it's a web app, maybe it's, some kind of AI bot to help match women in tech roles. But we do also see that there's a big need for that data transparency, new ways of analyzing the data, especially looking at data with an intersectional lens, where we're missing a lot of analysis, I think, when it comes to looking at both gender and race data intersectionally. And so as long as there's a technical component to the project, we're super open to that for fellows. And, if you dig into a problem statement, not every problem has a technical solution to it. Some problems are more about just bringing the right people together. So it is more about the problem statements than the technical builds, but we want to make sure that we're supporting the fellows and actually utilizing their tech skills. Many of these folks might be on a really cross-disciplinary team where they have a lot of autonomy in what they build for the first time.
Okay, so I'll take the next question. Hopefully this makes sense. But do you have any efforts to try and influence / change any other existing fellowships So this is from the live chat, I believe. So if anyone wants to add some additional context, that may be helpful.
One thing we are trying to do is just coordinate across the city. So we're building relationships with a lot of the other fellowship programs, just to understand better the interconnectedness within the journey in tech. We haven't necessarily found too many fellowships that focus on women in technical roles. You know, the name is escaping me. What's the name? There's an awesome program. Casey Naharka, do you remember the one? It's out of 1871. There is a women's tech fellowship that's really great. But there's not WeSTEM, that's for entrepreneurs. So that is one. Women Influence Chicago. Yeah, is another one. So there's a ton of great fellowship programs. And one thing that we're just trying to do is create those relationships so that we understand, you know, what progress is already being done and can share best practices between fellowships. But as far as influencing other programs that exist in Chicago, I think that we have yet to, you know, look into that.
Okay, take the next one. In one of your slides, you noted who the program is for, but what type of technical background should candidates have to be considered for the fellowship?
Yes, we forgot that. So software engineering and development is the first bucket. The second is UI UX design and engineering. Third, data science and engineering. And fourth, technical and strategic product management. So those are the 4 buckets, and we'll be looking for mentors as well who have those areas of expertise.
Okay, so I will take the next question, which kind of relates to that one, but how do you plan to recruit fellows from non-traditional backgrounds? So you've mentioned universities, but how do you become visible to the people without the computer science degrees who would likely benefit?
So we are building a lot of relationships with boot camps in the city to make sure that we can help support alum of boot camps, as well as 2-year colleges, you know, anybody with the skills to be hired into a tech role. We're not really in the business of helping people gain the skills to be qualified for the tech role. We're really looking at that 1 to 5 year career band between like first job and first promotion. So we're not actually with the fellowship program providing that education. But we are, you know, building relationships with those programs that are outside of a 4-year university structure so that we're getting fellows from a variety of backgrounds. And a big piece of that is also kind of career transitions. So not just people that are their first career is a career in tech, but that are being, you know, reskilled into tech careers after having a background in a non-technical career.
Cool. I can get the next one. So what is the sort of time, location, commitment for the fellowship? How would it work for someone who already has a day job?
So the time commitment is 10 to 12 hours per month. We definitely expect that if there are fellows who have extra time, you know, we're open to job seekers in the program or people who are kind of freelancing but looking for that full-time role. So we're open to those folks in the program as well who might spend more than that 10 to 12 months or 10 to 12 hours per month on the program. But we're trying to keep the actual time commitment to a minimum so that folks who are in those roles can participate fully and then be able to dig into their projects at the level that they're able based on their personal, you know, job and time situation. That's also a big part of the reason that we're offering a stipend for the program. So most fellowships actually come at a cost to fellows. We're paying fellows that $5,000 stipend. And we want to, you know, use that to help be paying fellows for their time, especially because we hope to amplify a lot of the work that comes out of this fellowship.
So could you tell us more about the definition of the cumulative psychosocial burden that we saw in the diagram? It's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. Yeah, that's I think that's a question that actually needs a longer discussion. But you know, just looking at the systems map and all the different variables and all the different things that like impact you know, a person's like career, their journey in tech. I think looking at that, but thank you, Sam, for pulling that up. But yeah, if we can go to the cumulative psychosocial, I love that someone actually picked that up.
Quick eyes.
I know. This was, yeah, so, essentially, it's not just, looking at like apples or oranges. I think there's so many different like factors that affect, gender in gender roles and gender dynamics in the tech space, and for that matter in any sector really, if you think about it, just in the workforce in general. So there is definitely like a huge like cumulative like psychosocial burden on women to resist conforming to female like gendered stereotypes. A lot of it is external, and that is for the most part what we are trying to address with our work, but a lot of it is also internal. So, just changing that narrative is very important and critical to our work. So a lot of what we're trying to do is, addressing these different like barriers, external and internal, that influence and impact, people's journeys in tech, career journeys in tech.
Yeah, and we're actually happy to share this link for anybody that wants to do a deeper dive into the systems map. And the tool that we use is this Kumu.io tool for anyone that wants to build something similar for their work. But yeah, it's helpful if you actually want to like get in there and trace things back, because you can see here how the cumulative psychosocial burden can be traced back to much more specific pieces. So the idea of gender threat at work, so perceived threat to men, the idea that women coming into the workforce has this perception of threatening men in the workforce, which, as we know, there are a ton of tech jobs that are unfilled, so it's not true. But you can kind of see at a greater level of detail all of the different aspects that contribute to that psychosocial burden. So we'll make sure to send the link out for anybody that's interested in nerding out with us.
Yeah, I think folks would really like to dive in. That'd be great.
We all want it.
I think I can do the next one. So that question from the live chat, would you say you're more focused on recruitment or retention right now?
Right now with the fellowship program, we're really focused on retention, because there are a lot of programs right now that are happening in the recruitment kind of pipeline space. So we definitely plan to address that space, but with the fellows program, we're really addressing retention. So people who are already qualified for those tech roles. But I mentioned briefly that we are already doing work at UIC. So some curriculum innovation. The program there is called Breakthrough Tech, and they're under the umbrella of Get Cities. And they're actually, housed at the university. So they're doing curriculum innovation directly within the CS department there. And so that piece of it definitely is more about recruitment, obviously, into tech.
Okay, so what kind of org is Get Cities? So how does the org style and the funding sources affect the mission?
I'm happy to take this one. So we're a not-for-profit initiative, and we are brand new. So we're funded by Pivotal Ventures, which is Melinda Gates's incubation company, and with our sole purpose being to launch this initiative.
Cool. I can get the next one. So you mentioned that the largest tech employers in Chicago have an outside influence in the job landscape. Do you have any plans to try and directly influence these companies?
We definitely, more than influence, actually want to work with companies to make sure that we're helping at that individual company level, integrate strategies that will help increase the representation of marginalized genders in their tech workforce. So again, with this fellows program, we actually see it as an interesting pilot and experiment, right? Like we're going to get fellows who are from a lot of the largest tech employers in Chicago and actually be getting that firsthand perspective of what it's like to work in a number of different corporate environments in Chicago. But we plan to engage, their managers, other leadership at companies to really be supportive of the program, to understand what impact we're having, and definitely down the line to be working with those employers more directly and explicitly. As we all know, like the tech workforce is really dominated by there are these huge employers that can pay huge salaries and can suck a lot of tech talent. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing not just startups and kind of the tech environments that maybe a lot of us here work at, but also those large employers as well, because they tend to also have the most siloed employees that don't have the ability to have that visibility into other people in tech.
Mm-hmm. And one follow-up question there, I guess I've been in Chicago tech for a while, but I actually don't even know if I could name the like top 5 tech companies in Chicago. I mean, would you mind sharing who they are, since it's probably known or knowable?
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on how you define that. So we're not even just looking at tech companies, but also looking at the largest employers generally in Chicago, which all have tech departments. And so McDonald's is like a top 5 employer in Chicago, but we don't necessarily think about them as a tech company. So it does kind of depend on what you're looking at. And I don't know if we have that list ready to go, or I don't know if either of you kind of know the top 5 based on just the tech workforce size.
Yeah, I'm looking at the one that we did. So I think the top 5-10 is Braintree, CNA, Morningstar, Aon, Echo, Global Logistics, Grubhub. These are some of the top tech employers. But overall, some of the top employers in Chicago are Walgreens, McDonald's, Boeing, Caterpillar, United Continental Holdings. And I think nowadays, like pretty much every company is a tech company. So
Right.
just looking at, so as Sam said, it depends on the definition that you apply.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good to know. And full disclosure / we have a connection. Braintree is one of our sponsors. So if you have connections there or need one, we can connect you. I think we have another question, Ryan.
We do, but it's lacking a little context, so I could
Oh,
try.
you know what? Yeah, it was from the live chat. I think it was when we were talking about the cumulative psychosocial burden. Someone had a follow-up question about that.
Okay, so with that in mind, would microaggressions fall under that category?
Yes, the short answer is yes.
Okay. That question's answered.
Great. Well, that's actually all the questions we have in the live chat. I think it sounds like there's a lot, like the HACKNIGHT community would be a great group of folks who I think would have a great interest in your program. And so we had shared a link to your interest form on our live chat, and we'll share it elsewhere. I think I saw the timeline. I saw a January. So is that the plan, is to launch this coming January for this first round of fellows?
Yeah, the application actually goes live next week, but the first, formal summit and kickoff for the fellows will be in January. So coming up pretty quick.
Awesome. That's great. Cool. Well, I think we're good on questions, so I think we can maybe wrap things up. You think so, Ryan?
I think so. Well, thank you, Casey, Sam, Niharika. This was a really great presentation, learned a lot. Thank you for sharing that link. I think everyone wants to kind of look at that diagram again. As a reminder to everyone, there will be a post live stream Zoom to join where we go through announcements as well as some breakout groups. And so we're going to be posting that link. Well, here's the link right here, but we'll also be posting that in the HACKNIGHT remote Slack channel as well. So that'll be starting at 8 p.m. Derek, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think that's all we've got. So yeah, thanks again to our presenters. And I think our very last thing we always like to say at HACKNIGHT is
Go
forth and.
Oh, I beat you to it. Sorry, I left you behind.
No, I let you to finish it. So, team up.
Okay, well.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you at the Zoom call. Bye. Bye.